What's up, everybody? I'm Dr. P, of course, and welcome back today for another video. I really appreciate you taking the time to stop back by. It means so much to me. In this one, guys, we have so much to go over, so make sure you drop a like down below if you're hyped for the return of Kevin the Cube, which should be very soon. And if you like what you see and want to see more, consider subscribing to the channel and becoming a part of the family today. So literally 1 minute ago, Fortnite went on Twitter and said the version 10.2 content update arrives tomorrow, September 3 at 8 a.m. Eastern. There will be no downtime required for this update because it is simply an extension of the previous 10.2 content update. It's not 10.3, it's 10.2, so I'm not sure exactly how much is going to change in the game because it's not the biggest kind of update it could possibly be, but it is nonetheless an update. As far as what we might be able to expect for this update tomorrow, Lucas7Yoshi on Twitter has an idea. He says we should be able to expect the Zapper Trap, which of course is a new trap coming to the game. I'll throw it up on screen for you now if you have no clue what it is. But I like this. I like implementing more new traps. I think they're really cool. This one looks a little bit like an electric trap where it's going to use electricity to injure people, which I think is interesting. Lucas7Yoshi also seems to think we are going to be getting a island rift zone, and basically what that equates to is the official return of Kevin the Cube. As we all know, it's been confirmed. I've been talking about it for a couple separate videos on my channel. In case you still don't believe me, here is the loading screen that shows Kevin the Cube literally with his island at Fatal Fields, exactly where the current rift beacon is. Just to add even more fuel to the fire, if you look behind the island at the mountain, you can see the mountain clearly has snow/ice on it, and that was not around previously back in Season 6 when Kevin was first going around the map with his island. So that pretty much confirms Kevin is coming back. He's going to be at Fatal Fields, and it could very well happen, and Kevin could spawn in as early as tomorrow with the new update, especially considering, courtesy of Fort Tory on Twitter, the rift beacon at Fatal has actually activated. The rift in the sky has started to be formed, and as we know, it usually doesn't take very long after it activates for the area to be transformed and to get that rift zone all the way around it. That's been the case with pretty much every other rift beacon we've had so far, and this is the 5th one, so I do expect that trend to continue. Ultimately, we won't have to wait long to find out. Of course, the update drops at 8 in the morning tomorrow, so we'll find out right away pretty much whether or not Kevin is going to come back tomorrow. Speaking of Kevin, I tweeted out a little earlier, send me your best theories about Kevin the Cube, rift zones, or anything else from Season X. Best replies get featured in today's upload, and as you might have been able to guess, this is that upload. So the first theory on that reply comes from FN Leaks, and he says maybe in this update we could possibly see the irritated rune spots come back. How would Kevin get his power if he doesn't have the runes? Also, Kevin looks like he's in the exact spot where one of the runes were. He brings up a great point. So if you'll remember back in Season 6 and 5 when Kevin was originally here, he went around the map leaving runes that he eventually went back to with the island, and it seemed like he was drawing some kind of power from it, like it was some kind of an energy source. So yeah, from that perspective, it would make sense for the runes to come back, so he would in a way be able to get the same level of energy that he had originally. Now, as for Kevin being in the same spot as the rune was in that picture I just showed you, not so much. It's in a similar position, but the original rune spot near Fatal was actually in between Fatal and Salty, as indicated on this old Season 6 rune chart. It's confirmed that the cube is coming back. It's confirmed that the floating island is coming back. We don't know whether or not that island is going to move around the map like it did back then. We also don't know whether or not the runes are going to exist in the game as well. My guess would be yes, because if you've got Kevin and you've got the island, it would make sense for the runes to come back. Maybe they'll get printed again. Maybe they'll just kind of show up randomly. A lot of questions we need answered, and I'm sure we will get them answered soon enough. This next idea comes from Malik on Twitter, and he says everything related to the Cube Island is going to repeat. The only difference is that this time, we'll be able to see what happens to it instead of being teleported to the in-between. One of the reasons this might happen is because the timeline is all screwed up. So if you rewind back to the Season 6 Cube event when we originally entered the in-between, it was solely due to the cube's explosion. The second it actually started exploding and really cracking open, we were all transported to the in-between, which is a super mysterious place that we still have a lot of questions about, and there was a mysterious butterfly figure there, which we still don't really know everything about, but we do know that the butterfly is also slated to return. It was seen in the cinematic cutscene for Season X, and then found again in the game's coding very recently. I've been talking all season long about this theme that seems to be going around about things happening again, but not happening exactly the way they originally did. So it would make sense for us to have the cube thing reoccur, but this time the altercation could be where it left on the island and not transported to the in-between, so we would be able to watch physically what happens or what happened when we were in the in-between the first time. I really like that theory. Next up, we've got Awesome5673, who says Kevin travels to the Nexus and collides in the live event. And then we get warped to a version of the map where a new storyline starts. Partway through Season 11, Kevin gets rifted back to us and stays in one spot with an anti-gravity thing around him. I really like the beginning part of that theory because I do think it could be a little too early to try and dig too far into what Season 11 might hold, but as far as Season X, right here and right now, I think it would make so much sense for Kevin's island to move around the map and eventually wind back up in the middle of Loot Lake, aka the Nexus, or the 0 point as I guess it's called now. Think of it this way: every time Kevin was in the game or the island was in the game before, its ultimate goal, one way or another, was in the middle of Loot Lake. Originally, Kevin rolled around the map and ended up in Loot Lake. Even when the island formed and it went around the map, it winded up yet again in the middle of Loot Lake before all was said and done. So clearly, the middle of Loot Lake has something huge going on there. We didn't know this back in Season 6, but it was the site of the gate, aka the vault. And maybe Kevin is coming back now because he knows, or potentially the visitor knows, the 0 point is exposed. Of all the things that the island could do, it would make the most sense if it went back to the Nexus, the middle of Loot Lake, to finish, or at least attempt to finish, what he started. Remember a couple theories ago I talked about potentially us revisiting the cube's explosion? In my mind, the only way that would happen is if we get as close as possible to recreating the circumstances that led up to Season 6 Butterfly event. That would almost certainly involve the island and the cube making a return to Loot Lake and the Nexus. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. Next up, we've got LolOof, who says, my theory is that the visitor will make a lot of rift zones, making a huge crack in the air while every event is going to happen. The big crack will make a black hole, causing the whole map to warp through space and time, and we will return with a newly fresh map. He also adds that he thinks it will happen during the live event, and that this could ultimately be the live event itself. So in a lot of ways, I really think this makes sense. If you look at what's going on right now, we know the visitor is most likely creating all the rift beacons inside the Dusty Depot and setting them up around the map. Each one of these rift beacons creates a tiny fragment of the original crack in the sky. We're still relatively early into this season and we have a lot of time left. We have a lot of locations slated to return. We have a lot of rift beacons that are going to show up in the future. And the crack in the sky is going to continue to get bigger and expand as the season progresses. What if by the end of the season, the crack is fully formed and restored to its original Season 5 glory? What if this is all a massive plan by the visitor to recreate the crack in the sky so that he can bring the rocket back into the map? Let's not forget what we saw almost immediately as soon as the Season X trailer started. We saw the visitor's rocket, and we know that a lot of the things that we saw also in that trailer are actually coming back. Take the island Kevin the Cube and the Butterfly, for example. You see them like midway through the trailer, and sure enough, they're coming back. We all know that the rift in the sky was created when the rocket left the Fortnite world back in Season 4. What if the visitor is recreating it so he can have it re-enter the atmosphere, re-enter our universe? For what reason? Who knows? Let me know what you think that reason would be. I love to hear your theories. I love to feature as many of you guys as I can each video. I do not take any of you guys for granted. I love to give back as much as I can, so if you have any ideas, theories, speculation, suggestions, literally anything whatsoever, make sure to drop them in the comments. If it's good enough and it sparks my interest, I could feature it in my next video and give you credit. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in my next upload, and until then, take it easy and peace out.